So 5 rounds have just gone by in this year's F1 circus, and I think it's now the appropriate time to grade some drivers. Because drivers' forms change throughout the season, so I'm planning this kind of video for after the Hungarian Grand Prix, because that's a summer break, after the Singapore Grand Prix, and then one after Abu Dhabi. So here we go, let's get started with today's video. I'm trying to get to 10,000 by June, but probably not possible anymore, so I might have to move that goal to July. And also be sure to follow me on Instagram. I'm trying to get to 200 there. So we're just going to do this by doing a simple last to first in the standings. So from Bortoleto all the way to Max Verstappen. So that being said, let's start off with Gabriel Bortoleto. I mean, let's be real, I can't really grade him properly. That Sauber is as useless as last year's Sauber. So I'm going to just give him a 5 out of 10. He's been alright, you know, expected a few rookie mistakes here and there, but he's been alright. And I think, you know, the potential is there. He just doesn't have the machinery to do it. P19, we have Jack Doohan. I know he's been having rookie mistakes like Bortoleto, but in Doohan's case it's a bit different because he's under pressure to be replaced by Colapinto mid-season. And I said in my preview video, it doesn't matter if it's in the 3rd round or whatever round, Colapinto is definitely guaranteed a drive. And I think it's starting to show. And I think Colapinto is going to be the better option than Jack going forward because Franco proven himself in his first outings in an F1 car while Jack is nowhere to be found. And the fact that his biggest highlights of the season this year so far have been crashes is not good. I'm going to have to give him a 3 out of 10 on this one. Who knows what we will see in the future. Maybe he can turn things around, but that's probably the least likely scenario. Moving on to P18, we have Liam Lawson. Oh, Liam, how did it all go wrong? From knocking out Max Verstappen in Singapore to this, to qualifying P18 in the Red Bull. Obviously, he can still turn things around. There's still a lot of time left in the season. I still have more hope in Liam than I do in Jack Doohan. But again, it's not looking great at the moment. And has he even beaten a teammate on track so far this season? I don't even think that's the case. Oh, wow. We'll give it like a 3.3 out of 10. But if we were ranking based on their logos, 12 out of 10. P17, Fernando Alonso. Don't expect much from Aston Martin until their Adrian Newey upgrades come in. It's not looking bright at the moment. Missed on points in Australia because of the gravel on the track. And it's just been a downhill spiral from there on out. The downfall of Aston Martin genuinely has to be studied. They went from the clear-cut second best team on the grid to this lump of mess. And it's not even Lance Stroll's fault. It's just, their team is just so incompetent. 6 out of 10, maybe 5.5 out of 10. Again, like Bortoleto, you can't really judge this properly because he doesn't have the machinery to show, you know, whether he's great or whether he's crap. But it's Fernando Alonso. We all know he's great. Maybe not anymore because he's on his last legs of his career. I think next year is his last, or potentially even this year if, you know, he has no hope in Aston Martin for next season. But with a Honda power unit going in, shoot, may as well try it for 1 year. So yeah, Fernando Alonso, we'll give him a solid 5.5 out of 10. Up next, Yuki Tsunoda. I know it hasn't been great in the Red Bull so far, but I'll let him off. It's a weird situation for him right now. Over the course of the season, I think he's going to get a lot better. But as of right now, you know, he just needs to get to grips with that Red Bull. It's a really hard car to drive. Even Verstappen showing it's difficult to drive. But with Tsunoda, yeah, it's a tough situation for him. You know that seat should have been yours. They gave Liam Lawson the chance, and he proved that it should have been yours. And he's been doing decent in that Red Bull so far. 5.9 out of 10. There's still a lot of season left for him to make some noise. And I did say in a few videos before that I want him to go to Aston Martin in the winter. But if he can somehow pull it together at Red Bull, I don't mind seeing him stay over there. Next up in P15, we've got Carlos Sainz. Now, if I base this off for like the first, 3 races of the season, I probably would have given him a low rating, you know, only 1 point. But for the past 2 races in Bahrain and Saudi, he's been pretty decent. In Bahrain, he made Q3 and he was screwed over with reliability issues in the race. And in Saudi, he pulled the Singapore 2023 strategy to help Williams maximize their points and to prevent Isaac Hadjar from overtaking Alex Albon. He's been great in Saudi, but we don't know just yet if it was just for that race or if it will continue for the rest of the season. But we know Carlos' quality I don't think it's just a one race thing. I think it's going to continue for the rest of the season, and he can potentially creep into the top 12, even the top 10, depending on how Haas and Alpine's development goes throughout the season. But so far for Carlos, it's not the best, but you can tell he's just getting to grips with a new team and a new situation. I'm going to give him a 6.3 out of 10. Next up in P14, we have Isaac Hadjar. He started off the season as a rookie in the worst way possible by crashing in the formation lap, pulling off a Lance Stroll. But since then, he's been pretty solid, and out of all the other Red Bull drivers, including the Red Bull number 2 seat, he scored the most points out of all of them while he's drawn with Yuki Tsunoda. But he's higher in the standing. But so far this year, Isaac has definitely shown that he is quality. He is a class driver, and he has a bright future ahead of him in the sport. You know, China qualifying, that was insane. Well, not just for Isaac, for both of the Racing Bulls, actually. And at the start of the year, if you watch my preview video, I said that Isaac will have a similar season to Yuki did in 2021. But no, that's the complete opposite. He's been class, he's been great. 6.7 out of 10, not quite a 7 out of 10. If I was grading him against the other rookies, probably a 7 out of 10, but since it's relative to the rest of the grid, a 6.7 will do. And next we have Oliver Behrman. We know this guy is class. We've seen him last year against Hülkenberg in the Haas. His first race at Ferrari in Saudi Arabia, he did a solid job for barely getting any practice. I'm going to give Oliver Behrman a 7.2 out of 10. He's been great in that Haas, the full-time Haas seat, especially that drive in Bahrain. No, P20 to P10. This man is insane. And once Lewis retires, I think we know who's going to be getting that seat. In P11, we have Nico Hülkenberg. This is exactly the same like Gabriel Bortoleto. He can't really show up in that kick Sauber when there's like nothing there. Sure, he did get points in Australia, but that was circumstantial with the Ferraris with that terrible strategy. Oscar Piastri as well. But I will still say it was on merit because it was a wet race, and wet races are where, you know, veterans show their class. But other than that, it's been really nothing. And again, Sauber, I don't think they are going to score any more points for the rest of the season. Maybe Hülkenberg gets 2 more. Maybe Bortoleto gets 1 more. But I just really have no hope for this team this season. It's going to be another long one until Audi comes in. But Audi already starting to doubt their engine. Oh no. For Nico, I still think he's better than Bortoleto. Let's just give him a 5.5 out of 10. And the window to get that first podium is not looking great at the moment. In P11, we have Pierre Gasly, who scored all of his points at the Bahrain Grand Prix. Now, I feel like Gasly is one of those drivers who remain the same. They don't have like great seasons or bad seasons. They just remain the same caliber of driver, minus 2019 and 2020 and 2021. After 2021, I just feel like Gasly has been the same caliber of driver. A really great driver in terrible, terrible situations. I don't know what else to rate Gasly other than like a 7.5 maybe. He's great, but like can't really show for it, but you can tell he's great. I really, really hope Alpine bring their crap together. High Tech, come on, just rebrand to High Tech sooner. You know, it's survival of the fittest in this sport. Unlike the guy in P10, Lance Stroll. Lance Stroll started off the season with a bang, finishing P6 at the Australian Grand Prix. Then at the Chinese Grand Prix, he was somehow able to hold up Lando Norris for like 80% of the race, and was even able to overextend his hards for about 31 laps. And since then, it's been the same crap. It's the Lance Stroll cycle. He'll start off great, and for like the first 2 races, and then after that, he will just disappear into thin air. 4 out of 10. Next, we have Esteban Ocon in P9. Remember last year when just an influx of Esteban Ocon haters came out of nowhere? I don't really see them this year. And he's been alright with Haas after the relationship with Alpine seemingly fell off a cliff towards the end of last year. And I think if he keeps up this consistency, I think he will finish P9 or possibly just P10 in the standings, which is still not bad for his first season in Haas. But yeah, he's been good. What else can I say about Esteban? P5 in China, not really P5. P8 in Bahrain, great performances. Decent performances at least, not great. 7.5. If Behrman's a 7.2, Ocon's a 7.5. In P8, we have Alex Albon. Remember last year when Franco Colapinto came in that seat and was matching Albon, and then people were saying Albon's a mid driver. He just never had good enough teammates to match him. He has just had incompetent teammates like Nicholas Latifi and Logan Sargent. And look what he does this year with a very competent teammate in Carlos Sainz. 20 points. P8 in the standings, outscored last year, is about to outscore 2023, and I think 2023 was his best season. Out immediately out the gates, P5 in Australia. And since then, he's been consistent, hasn't put a foot wrong. Well, okay, apart from Japan. Japan was a bit shaky, but hey, he still secured points in that race. 8.3 out of 10, solid job so far this year, and I just expect him to keep on getting better. And who knows, maybe next year when Williams have a decent enough car to compete for podiums, this man could be a real threat. And also, Williams, if you're watching this, please invite me to the paddock. Thank you. In Singapore or in Britain. I don't have a British visa. I have a US visa. Invite me to the paddock in Las Vegas, please. In P7, Lewis Hamilton. Everything we said about Alex Albon in reverse. It hasn't been great for his first stint with Ferrari so far. We had the highs of China, and we have the lows of every other race so far in this season. Now, do I think Lewis Hamilton is completely finished? No, not necessarily. I still think Lewis has the pace in him, but to compete for a title, that one I'm not so sure. You know, the season's still long. I think once Lewis finally 100% gets to grips with that car, we will see a different version of him and he will start to produce the results once again. We're not going to be seeing that right now. That man has driven a Mercedes power unit every single season of his career up until now. And they're two very different car handling characteristics. Sainz even said it's not surprising, so hey, there's that. I'm going to give Lewis a 5.7 out of 10 so far. But maybe it will change towards the end of the season. P5, Kimi Antonelli. He's the best rookie on the grid. He just has so much balls, doesn't he? Remember this, absolutely massive dive attempt he tried but in Bahrain? P18 to P4 in Australia. His debut! P18 to P4 in wet conditions, in changeable conditions. This man has been exceptional. Suzuka as well, leading a race as a rookie. I'm pretty sure that's the first time since Antonio Giovinazzi. Another Italian driver, I just remember so many people on social media hating on Kimi when he was first announced and before the season started, saying, "Oh, he's too young, he barely has feeder series experience," or they should go for a more experienced driver to be a number 2 like Bottas or Sainz. That's not been the case. Kimi is holding up on his own and his future looks really bright. If this was relative to the rookies, 10 out of 10, but relative to the rest of the grid, a solid 7.8. P5, Charles Leclerc. That man got a podium in the reincarnation of the SF1000. I mean, come on, we all know he's still the same driver. Ferrari just needs to fix the issues with their car. I have no clue what they were doing down at Maranello during the winter. We all know what Charles is capable of, and hey, he qualified P3 at the Bahrain Grand Prix. We know his one-lap pace is still there. The pace of the car just isn't there. So we'll just give Charles Leclerc an 8.5 out of 10 for the culture. In P4, we have George Russell. George has been great this year. He's had 3 podiums. Defensively, he's been really good as well. Remember the race in Bahrain when he was holding off Lando Norris for the entirety of the race after the safety car. And if Mercedes can somehow pull their crap together, which I won't be surprised if they're able to, I think he can potentially challenge Oscar Piastri, Norris, and Verstappen for the championship. Imagine a 4-way battle between them 4. It would be absolute cinema. George Russell, I'm going to have to give him a 9.2 out of 10 so far. In P3, we have Max Verstappen. I mean, come on, we all know what Max is capable of. A pole lap in Japan, that was crazy. Winning that Japanese Grand Prix when his car is clearly not the fastest, the McLarens were clearly better. Sure, he was saved a bit by the dirty air, but it was still a good drive nonetheless. I don't think we can give Verstappen anything lower than a 9.5. I think a 9.5, maybe 9.6 is fair for Verstappen. I don't think it's quite a 10 out of 10. Screw it, let's just give him a 10 out of 10. He hasn't put a foot wrong at all this season, and it's the Max Verstappen we all know and love. He hasn't regressed. But it was just announced that he got a baby, and the last time it was announced that a Red Bull driver had a baby, He didn't win a world championship after that, and he was stuck at 4 world championships. I'm just saying, Max. I don't think Max is gonna end up like Seb. I think Max is a better driver than Seb. Ooh. In P2, we have Lando Norris. I think people are overblowing on how bad he is. I don't think he's bad at all. He's just not mentally there to win a championship. He doesn't have champions mentality. You know, you hear all these sorry ass press conferences. But there's still a lot of season left to make up. I think he could still pose a decent fight to Piastri. Quali pace wise, he is there, but race pace wise, he's not quite there. And it's quite clear who the better driver is over a race distance. 8.8 out of 10. And lastly, we have Oscar Piastri. I think Oscar is very clearly the second best driver on the grid. Nothing much to be said, because Verstappen's still clearly the best driver on the grid. Oscar has had the most wins so far. He's also had the most pole positions. I mean, he even said it himself. He has the fastest car on the grid. He is doing what needs to be done with the fastest car on the grid. So this is a solid 9.5 out of 10 for Oscar Piastri. But now that we've ranked everyone, let's go through all the rankings from worst to best. Doohan 3 out of 10, Lawson 3.3 out of 10, Stroll 4 out of 10, Bortoleto 5 out of 10, Alonso and Hülkenberg tied for 5.5 out of 10, Hamilton 5.7, Yuki Tsunoda 5.9 out of 10, Sainz 6.3, Hadjar 6.7, Behrman 7.2, Gasly Ocon tied at 7.5, Kimi Antonelli 7.8, Alex Albon 8.3, Leclerc 8.5, Norris 8.8, Russell 9.2, Piastri 9.5, and Verstappen with the only perfect score. And I probably just gave that perfect score to Verstappen because he's the clear-cut best driver on the grid. So that'll do for today's video. Let me know if you agree or disagree with the rankings, but the way most of my ranking videos go, it's mostly disagree. Just let me know in the comments, I guess. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.